Hey guys, John Lattock here from Stormforce Fitness. Just making a really quick video. I'm making up a load of sort of fat gain pathways for our members so they can see maybe the areas that they're still sort of lacking in and how that's affecting their body fat, and then it's easy to make the changes. And this is just one of them to do with the thyroid. One of the typical responses to having a thyroid problem is, okay, you've got low thyroid hormones, so let's medicate with generally thyroxine. And thyroxine is basically the synthetic version of T4. Okay, T4 is one of the thyroid hormones that gets converted to T3, and then that's the usable form that our body then uses in the cells to increase your metabolism and all that. The problem is that, as you can see from this diagram, there are so many things affecting the thyroid and coming out of thyroid problems that we can't just say, okay, let's chuck in a synthetic version, let's put some drugs in, and all is well. Because what we can see is that even if T4 levels are up to the level they should be after medication, if there's problems with conversion, then you're just still not going to see any results. So for instance, just taking one area, if you're under a lot of stress, particularly sort of biological stress that fires up your fight or flight response, what happens is we get an increase in this hormone here called cortisol. And cortisol is actually quite useful because when you have a fight or flight response, it helps mobilize energy into the bloodstream, and then you've got that energy to deal with whatever stress you're under. In evolutionary terms, that normally meant like fighting or running away or just generally physical activity. So it's a very useful hormone for survival. The problem is, if you're under chronic biological stress, this just keeps firing up. This cortisol keeps firing up. And what this does, it actually reduces the conversion of T4 to T3. Okay, it's just kind of like a way of almost conserving energy and focusing on the problem at hand. Okay, rather than thinking about fat metabolization and all that sort of stuff, general metabolic processes, it just goes, look, we need to deal with this problem. Okay, so you're going to get less conversion of T4 to T3. Okay, so even if you are medicating with T4, if the conversion process is being locked down, you're not going to see any real changes. Okay, so that's one of the key problems. There's a lot more to it, but I don't want to kind of really confuse you. I just wanted to show you just one of the key things, because a lot of us are under loads of stress. That can increase cortisol, it reduces conversion of T3, and as a result, you're going to get low thyroid function, and then you can get any one of these pathways, which in a nutshell leads to higher body fat, which is normally one of the warning signs. Just like, why am I still putting on weight when I'm trying to train, I'm trying to eat well? Again, you're kind of fighting against yourself, and this is where just simply medicating and not dealing with any of the other processes can cause, well, maybe not even cause problems, it just won't make any difference, and it's very, very frustrating. Okay, so what we need to be looking at is, how can we improve all of the ways of improving thyroid function, because there's lots of areas it can fall down. For instance, you might be, like I said, it might be a stress thing. If we're crash dieting, that can kind of lead to the same thing. It's a stress response, and then we get an increase in what we call reverse T3, which again actually slows down the production of T3, which is what we want. If we've got a low protein diet, then it leads to low levels of thyroxine, which is an amino acid that is required for thyroid function as well. There's so many things that can be going on. The great news is you can actually take charge. Okay, all of this stuff that you see down the left-hand side is all things that are under your control. Okay, so rather than just reaching for medication, getting desperate and thinking, right, I need to just take some drugs and hope it helps, you can actually take these steps. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of them. You can kind of go through the list yourself. But all of these things affect thyroid function in some way. And generally it's things to do with nutrition and stress. Okay, so if you can get your nutrition under control, just healthy eating, reduce your consumption of pesticides and herbicides from sort of non-organic veggies, reduce your soy consumption, reduce your fluoride consumption, don't be smashing yourself in the gym. Okay, if you're doing really excessive exercise, again, that can lead to stress issues, and then as a result, we go down the pathway, and you're not producing the same amounts of T4 and T3. So have a look at that list. You can obviously pause this video, have a look at those, and see where you might be falling down. All right, so that's just one of the many, many pathways to fat gain that you need to be considering. And there is never going to be one drug that will solve problems because there's so many different hormones going into things. Even, you know, I've kind of tried to simplify this as much as possible, but you can see we've got liver function, we've got low thyroxine levels, we've got this hormone, we've got this hormone, we've got this hormone, we've got this hormone. You know, there's so much going on in there. You can't just choose one pathway and say, well, if I medicate and sort that out, all's going to be well, and then I'll be losing body fat. Okay, so that's just a little video to show you kind of some of the stuff that goes on. Hopefully the science kind of won't confuse you too much. Really, all you need to think about is this list down the side. Okay, if you can get all of that in order, then you're going to see improvements to everything else along the pathway. Okay, so deal with what you can deal with on a natural level. I'm not saying you won't need medication. In some cases, you may need it. However, like with a lot of things in life, most of the time, literally all of the time, you can actually make massive improvements simply by sorting out your own nutrition and stress levels. Okay, so I hope that helps you and you can start moving forward and taking charge of your own health.